I'm going to be like Paul Harvey. The rest of the story. First, I want to recognize Bill and Gary, who's still talking over here, for their kindness in inviting me out to Salt Lake City to do research. Back, what was it, October, November that we went out there. This latest trip, I was concentrating on, my prior trip I was looking at Frederick County, Virginia. This trip, I've been looking specifically at St. Mary's County, Maryland. Why I was looking there is because we had found some records of a Samuel Gann being in St. Mary's. So who is John Gann? We left off at, what was it, 1704. John Gann in Richmond County, Virginia. Okay, where is St. Mary's County? St. Mary's County is, I got this one here. Okay, right down here. Now all of this is Chesapeake Bay. Okay, and you have all of these little rivers come off. This is the, anybody know this one? Potomac. Okay, you have the Paxton up here on down. You have the, where she was talking about the Epps being, that's the James River. Think Jamestown. You know, Williamsburg was just north of Jamestown. I got maps, I'll show you a little later. The Epps lived kind of on the inland portion of that. We'll get to that later. Okay, so looking at St. Mary's County, we have subdivisions called hundreds. If you go back to the feudal system in England, you can read all about, you know, the hundred system and why that was set up. But we're going to look down here at this tip. It's called St. Michael's Hundred. Okay? Another one, Poplar Hill Hundred right here, has some records from there as well. Okay, and this is a modern map showing some of the places. This is the 1705 map showing you the breakdown of the hundreds. I have a bunch of slides from them. I'll go fast. Some of these I'm going to stop and tell you stories about. Okay, so if you're researching St. Mary's, what are you going to find? All right, the records that exist, you have maps dating from 1612. Okay, that's a wills from 1658. Estate inventories and probate records from 1644. Tax records and rent rolls from 1639. Land patents from 1645. But what are you not going to find? There's no church records before 1744. Now, 1744 is about the time that Samuel and Elizabeth probably moved over to Frederick County. So there are not going to be any church records there. No marriage records, no birth records, no deeds before 1831. They had a fire in the courthouse in 1831, burn up the deed records. So you're kind of hamstrung on finding records, except for the ones that I showed you right here, all the wills and the estates and the inventories that they did. So that's what we're going to be looking at today. All right, just for fun, I put that, this is 1612 John Smith. You go back to Jamestown, remember, Pocahontas and John Smith. This is the map that he made. It's north is to the right here. Okay, so this is the Chesapeake, and then you have James River, the Potomac right here. So St. Mary's is right here. Farnham County, North Farnham, where the Dodsons were right here. The Epps were from right over here. Okay, so who is John Gann? I'm going to do a quick review of records in existence from Samuel, okay? Because I'm going to kind of try and see if there's any link between them. All right, so what do we know of Samuel and St. Mary's? This is all stuff that pretty much Bill has found, and I went back and I found originals of a lot of these. This is a name you need to remember for later. Darby Carter, okay? Samuel Gann is in Darby Carter's probate. Colonel John Baker, Joseph Hopewell, Joseph Wheatley. And you can see the dates, 1724 through 1744. So we know by 1748, they were already in Frederick County because that's where Samuel was born. Okay. And this is what we see. Samuel was born in 1748. This is in Frederick County now. There's a lawsuit between Morgan versus Gann. There was, last year when I talked about this, there was one thing that possibly said that was dismissed, case force was dismissed, and it might have said deceased. I recently found another one that just said dismissed. So it makes me think that there was only that one Samuel instead of being three, 2 or 3 Samuels. There was the father and son Samuel. Court martial records, and we know, the land patent records for Elizabeth sold the land. Okay, so when you give a speech, I was told you tell them what you're going to tell them, then you tell them, and then you tell them what you just told them. So this is I'm going to tell you this part still. So the records of John Gann in St. Mary's County, here's what we're going to be looking at. Remember, we left off at 1704 with John Gann in Virginia, okay? Living down there where the Dodsons were. Okay, so from 1706, it actually says 1706/7 in the record, so I don't know which one it was.
That has to do with the calendar change.
Okay.
That's double the calendar change.
Thank you. So Robert Mason, he plays rent to Thomas Grunwald in 1707. 1710, Solomon Jones' will. 1715, Timothy Swillivan's probate. And 1715, and these dates are pretty close together sometimes. Isaac Payne, there's a surety bond. I'm not up on all the latest, so somebody might have to tell me what all that means when we look at it, if you got any idea.
Was he a lawyer?
No, there was a long list of people that were paying these surety bonds on the page. I mean, I've got the original page to look at it.
Either that he's going to, he's supporting somebody else's candidacy or
We'll
something.
look at it in a minute when we get to it. But y'all can help me out with that. I'm a smart guy, but I'm not the smartest. By far. Okay. What was that? Clint Eastwood. Man's got to know his limitations. And then there is John Gann's probate record. Okay, at the very end, 1718. Okay, so we're going to see a little bit of interesting information as we go along looking through all of this.
David, in answer to that, a lot of times if there was someone who, you had an estate, you had administrators of the estate, they were required to post a surety bond to then, make sure that the assets were distributed properly and all that sort of thing. So the bond was to keep them honest, is what it amounts to.
So in these probate records, you're going to see, like, the sheriff a lot of times is listed. Sometimes there's an appraiser that's listed, and there's a lot of different listings that go through there. This guy right here, Robert Mason, in his listing, there's like 8 pages of people paying him or receiving money from him. It's a huge amount of information. I had to really cut it. I didn't put it all in here. I cut it down to just to the big parts. But there's a lot of history about him. One of the things you see, he owned almost 2,000 acres of land. So there's 2 really rich people that are mentioned in all of these records. Robert Mason is one of them. Okay? Just to keep everything moving and trying to be on time, I'm going to blast through a lot of this. Who is John Gann? This is from March, the 1706/7. Susanna Major, Mason, is the wife of Robert Mason. And she's the one that's the executor of his estate. So next slide. And like I said, that was the blow up. Whoops. That was the blow up of the little place down here. There's pages and pages that look like this. And in it, you finally come to John Gann.
The clicker's working now.
Yeah, it's working out, yeah. Thank you. So you can see, tobacco received John Gann. It has the amounts over there.
And look at the G. The G's that.
Mhm. Oh, we'll see more about that G later. It's coming up. Okay, and this has the date at the end. And then I went in and found where some of his land was. Their plantations, a lot of times, were named. And it reminds me of, you ever go to a marina and you look at a whole bunch of ships and they got all these weird names of, what is it? Smith's Folly and whatever, surety bond. All right, it says surety bond, a legally binding contract that guarantees an obligation will be met. It involves three parties. So we'll see more of that in a little bit. So this tells where some of what the names of some of those plantations were, and they're located in that Poplar Hill 100. Right here, you can see it. And this is the 1705 tract map that I found on it. You can see about where they were. And he left other land in other counties also to his son. But this is, like I said, background information. All right, who is John Gann? We're up to 1707. This is a really interesting one because it places where John Gann lived. Look right down here. 800 pounds of tobacco received from John Gann for rent. All right, so he was renting from this guy named Thomas Grunwald. And also, the executor of this was Colonel Henry Lowe. Now, there's going to be names over, if they got a red line under it, you're going to see that name again. Okay? Thomas Grunwald was a clerk. If you put his name in, it'll pop up a whole bunch of stuff because he signed stuff left and right for the lower house there in Maryland. So he's going to pop up a lot. And this is typed out where you can actually read it. So Colonel Henry Lowe, again, John Baker is a name. Now, if I don't remember, back when I was showing you records that Samuel Gann had in St. Mary's County, that's one of the names associated with Samuel Gann. Okay? So you have John Gann for rent there at Thomas Grunwald's estate. This estate was called, I forgot. I put that in there. I won't get to that in a second. So this is background on Colonel Henry Lowe. This is the other really rich guy that's mentioned in all of this. This guy was, how much was that? It's almost 1,100 acres of land. Okay? He was in the legislature. He was also a military officer. I think he was, part of that was a naval element that he was out up on the Paxton River. So another, really rich guy that's in that area. Okay, so who was Thomas Grunwald? I told you that he was a court clerk, right? This is his land patent for 150 acres called Banfield Woods. Okay? Now remember, he's renting from him. Where is Banfield Woods? Right there.
Wow.
This is a marker that I put on Google Maps. You can go to Google Maps and find that right there. Okay? And this is the 1705 tract map that shows it. Now there's a couple other things I want to point out while we're on this slide. Right down here, if you look, you see this little inlet of water here? This is called Point Lookout Creek. And this little town that's on, this is a modern map off Google. That's called, can anybody read that? Scotland? There's an area that's still today, that's in some of these old land patent records. That's still, it's called Scotland. We'll see that in just a second. The other part of history was during the Civil War, there was a prisoner of war camp. And there's a state park that's right down here that's still there, and they have some barracks left over from the Civil War that you can look at and read about the history of that. Okay, now, before I get to this next slide, I got to tell you this little story. When we went and did all our research in Salt Lake City, I came back home all excited, and I was looking at online for more stuff about St. Mary's County, and I found their historical society, or genealogy society, and they had on their stuff, they had members only area. You know, it's like, oh, I wonder what's into that, you know? And then they had a file of surname information. And lo and behold, they had Gann listed, but you had to be a member. So I joined. And there was only one thing in that file. And lo and behold, if it wasn't from Joy Gann Brown's dad, Hassel, okay? He's writing to the court clerk here about the will of Solomon Jones and asking about this. What does that say? John G. Gann. Okay? This is the record that he was talking about. Okay? I'm going to show you the original in just a second. Solomon Jones, St. Mary County. Remember I pointed out Scotland? You know, that was where he lived. It's 40-acre tract right there. So we know, pretty close to where all that was. All in that same, what I'm building up the argument for is there's that geographic area. All these people that are related to and all these different probate are from that little area right there in St. Michael's Hundred. So John Gann is a testator for the will of Solomon Jones. Also notice who's an overseer on this? Isaac Payne. We'll see him again in a little bit. Now, here's the original. I told Thea this day when she said, about the G and the G, they gave me the chills because I knew what was coming. Okay, and then we have up here a couple of other people. It's my son, William Jones. We'll see him again later. That's Solomon Jones' son. And here's, Isaac Payne is one of the overseers. Okay, we'll see him again later. So we have John Gann mentioned. Okay, this is an excerpt from Solomon Jones' will. You see, once again,
John J.
yep.
John I.G.
G.
What's the I?
Yeah, I don't know if that's Ignatius or
Yeah.
next one. All right, and then from the line, this is Solomon Jones' father. Okay, his will, where he's leaving the land to Solomon. Okay, my son Solomon Jones. I don't have my glasses on.
All that
All this land lying Point Lookout Creek. Remember how I pointed out where that was? So it's a land, a tract that's right next to the point that it's known as Scotland. And I just thought that was so cool that there's a little town there today that's still called Scotland. It's right up there. The next little town up here, if you get on the map, it's called Ridge. Real fancy word, I guess. And right down here again is Point Lookout Creek. And Banfield Wood right here. Now, I did see, I didn't go back and look at all the patent and see where the land. One lady said she thought it was between these two creeks right up here. But on the map that I saw, that 1705 map, it had it right here. So it was in this general location, for sure. Okay, who is John Gann, 1715? This is from Timothy Swillivan's estate. You see him right up here. We have John Gann listed right here. Hey, John Gann. You know, the hand, like I said, the handwriting is hard to read in a lot of these, and it's a little bit blown up. Now that I've blown it up a little bit, this is Jesseldine. He's one of the sheriffs in the area, and you'll see his name again on John Gann's probate. William Jones, who is the son of Solomon Jones. Colonel Henry Lowe. You know, we're seeing these names over and over and over in each other's. And this is Timothy Swillivan's actual will. This other one was his probate, right? From his estate. Now this is his will, and see who was a witness? Darby Carter. Okay, and his parcel of land was at, it says Hawker's Cove. I looked and looked and looked, couldn't find it. It's somewhere that was so small that nobody wrote it down on a map, I guess. You had to know where it's at, kind of thing. Okay, so we're to 1715. Isaac Payne, that you really can't read that name very good. I sent it off to my handwriting expert right here, and he's like, I don't know. And what I did was, I was like, oh, there's an actual index to this will book. So I went back, because it had the page number up. This is just an excerpt. It had the page number up a little higher, so I went back. It's Isaac Payne. Now, they spell his name, you know, with a K on the end, and P-A-Y-N-E, and P-I-N-E, and P-A-Y-N. So it's been several different places. But you can see right here, John Gann, Henry Lowe. Where did Isaac Payne live? This was kind of cool because I did a little detective work, and I found this is where Thomas Payne, who was Isaac Payne's father, applied for land, and it was called St. Jerome's Thicket, 200 acres. And then I found this area that's called St. Jerome's, and there's a Payne's Range that's right down here, and there was another little clue that I found that would have put it right in here. On this, there's a little 2 coves right there. And you see right here, this is a St. Mary's 100, showing you who lives here, who lives there. You may have not heard this name, Calvert. Anybody heard of Lord Calvert? He was the governor of Maryland. This is his brother Leonard. Makes me think of Big Bang Theory almost. But you know, a lot of this down here and a lot of this up here was owned by Leonard Calvert. And you have, of course, Thomas Grunman right here, Banfield Wood, Thomas Payne's Range, St. Jerome's, right up in here. So the case I'm building is all these people are documented to live right down on this little peninsula called St. Michael's 100. And this is the cool part that I found. There's this map that has all these interactive parts, and in the will for the Paynes, it mentioned the name of the plantation was Riders and Broadneck. And I couldn't find it. And I just happened to click on this. It's like, oh, this is also called Broadneck, and it has 2 other R names. It's not Riders, but it's kind of close. So it probably got changed over time. So that's why I was thinking, oh, it could be right there as well. So, like the case I'm building is location, location, location. All right, who was John Gann in 1716? All right, and this is the surety bond. Okay, I tried to translate this as best I could. So John Gann's, I don't know if that's administrative or
Yes, yes.
bond by Richard Griffin is, and I don't know what that says. And the witness, James Green and John Squires, is surety for 40 pounds. And it's got another thing that I don't know what it is. It says dated 16 June 1716. It's got John Gann on it, so I say
It's 40 pounds certain.
Yeah.
that's a lot of money. And he owed 4 pounds 80 something.
Pens.
Pence. But the other one.
Pens.
Okay, now we're getting down to the last record of John Gann. All right. I have Richard Griffin. Richard Griffin is one of the county clerks. He does a lot. You'll see him in a lot of these as either signing off behind, what's been done, or you either have a will or you die without a will. So they call that intestate if you die without a will. And John Gann did not have a will. So this is the record. There may be more records out there, but this is the only one that I've ever found so far. And hopefully there's a whole lot more to come. So Richard Griffin, the executor of all the goods and chattels, John Gann, late of St. Mary's County, deceased, charges himself with the inventory of the said proceeds of the estate. Next page. Okay, so who do we see again? Darby Carter. Okay, very interesting. I don't know why. Oh, that's Thomas Underwood. This is Thomas Underwood. This is Thomas Underwood. Wow, some of the same names. One of the interesting things is, look at this. With 300 pounds in the deceased's house. So we know he had his own house. He had tobacco stored there. Where was that house probably located? Bamfield Woods. And this, once again, the date, 1718. Okay. Now all those names we looked at, you got to remember, there's two names that tie together both John Gann and Samuel Gann. And that's Darby Carter and Thomas Underwood. Both of those names appear in records of each other. And we don't have birth records. We don't have marriage records. This is what we got. We got probate records and estate inventories. That puts them in the same place at the same time, knowing the same people.
And we know where the Carter comes in.
Okay, so this is where I go back and tell you what I told you. So we know that John Gann lived in a house on rented land from Thomas Grunman at St. Michael's 100 on a 150-acre plantation called Bedfield Woods by the date of 1707. And we left off, like I said, at 1704 with him being in where? Richmond County, Virginia, with the what family? Dodson.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. All right, so we see him mentioned in all these from 1707, 10, 15, 16, up until his demise. And now we don't know when he died, but this was when his estate was yeah. So it would have been before May, whatever day that was. I think 20th, 1718. And he died intestate. Okay. Any questions?
Who's John Gann?
Who is John Gann? Well, you know, if all this pans out, he's going to be our immigrant ancestor.